Hello everyone! Today I want to show you guys something that I found that I've never noticed before. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed it before because I've never heard anyone talk about it. It's about playing Rainbow Six Siege, and the choices that you make can have a negative impact on your gameplay. Now we all know that that's pretty generic, right? If you choose the wrong operators, it can negatively affect your gameplay. If you choose the wrong teammates, it can negatively affect your gameplay. If you choose the wrong gun, it can obviously negatively affect your gameplay. But can your optics negatively affect your gameplay? Now I know what you're thinking. Probably the 1.5 is going to seem like it's a better option compared to the Holo sight if you have the option. Defenders definitely know this because it's a lot easier to hold long angles with a 1.5 because it gives you increased vision on that area. Now, there's a lot of things that you'll notice in the game. One of them being if you go to the training range, when you set up this person, right? You're gonna get bullet holes that are around the size of a bullet hole, right? The problem is that, well, it's really hard to test what you're hitting here, right? Because a lot of that, if that is a bullet hole, is on his head. The operator's head, so to speak. But it doesn't count. You can see that it doesn't count, didn't give us any points, and where it registers is far off of his head. Although the visual aspect of it shows you a pretty large amount of the outline on their head. So we're going to go ahead and go to the dummy. We're going to take Glaz. We're going to set this dummy as far back as we can, just for the purpose of this demonstration. We're going to go all the way back against the wall. Now this is going to be about 50 meters. Okay? And that's assuming that that's accurate. So what I want to try and show you is if you line this up and you look closely enough, it does look like the majority of the reticle is on his head. Now, sometimes, similar to how that last shot went on the other side of the shooting range, it'll look like the majority is on the head, and when you shoot, it may give you a headshot, or it may show you that you miss. Now, what I want to show you is what that looks like. There's pretty big variances in terms of what counts and what doesn't count. And I've done some testing to try and figure out exactly what is going on and what all that means. So this is a screenshot. I can go ahead and, well, let's just go ahead and take a look at it. I'm going to open up a new paint file just to paste this in. What I want to show you is this is the Photoshop paste. I don't want to zoom out too far because it'll show you my whole desktop, but this is Glaz. This is the shot that we just took, and this is zoomed in pixel by pixel so that you can see that the optic does have part of it off his head, but a large part of it is on his head. So if we take that and we go into Photoshop, or excuse me, into Paint, what I want to do is I want to just color out the parts that are on his head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So we have 25, possibly 26. It's very hard to tell with the color differences if this is part of the center of the reticle or not. So we're going to call it 25 to be safe. And then we're going to color all the ones that are outside. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So in this particular shot, we should assume that all things are balanced. So you would never see the reticle having this weird sort of off balance of pixels, right? It should be an even square. So So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill in what we feel is missing here to make it a universal picture. So this looks accurate. I don't think this is part of it. If you look at the colors between those two, those are about the same. So let's count them. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 28. And we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 28. So 28 pixels, assuming all things equal, are both on and off of the head of this dummy. Now, if we clear it and we bring it closer, okay, you're going to be able to kind of examine that a little bit more. I'm just going to try and get as much on his head as possible while trying to show you there is parts here like this. Like this in particular. So if you take a screenshot of that, I'm gonna go ahead and bring it back up in Photoshop. And then we're gonna bring it back up in Paint. So let's go ahead and take our screenshot there and bring up Paint, and I'm gonna paste this over that. I'm gonna try and zoom out a little bit so we can have a little bit more clarity here. So it looks like we have, we'll go with red for the inside for what stuff hit and what stuff didn't. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it looks like this does count. Does look like this is in. So we're going to count that too. The hue of that yellow looks more blue than any of the other yellow squares. So we're going to go ahead and count that. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. And it does even look like this might even be the same hue. So we're going to count that too. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 31. Okay. So the ones that are outside, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. This doesn't exactly make a perfect shape. It could be a number of different things. We're just going with what feels like the most blue part of it. So you'll see that more pixels are on the head than off the head. And when you're playing the game, you'll be able to even tell, right? If you come all the way up close, let's clear that. You can even tell yourself that that looks like that's definitively on his head. Another one where you can see that the center, like that center reticle, provides a shot that goes off from his head. Now, does that mean that the shots are always going to the exact center of that circle? Maybe not. What it could mean is that that circle in the hollow is providing a range of where the bullets can land. Because if you look at any of these shots right here, those all clearly display. You could even see, let's go ahead and print screen that again and pull it up in Photoshop. So this is what it looks like in Photoshop. So let's just even count here, right? Even if we just take the blatantly obvious blue squares, not just the mildly blue squares, we have what looks like over half, because you can see the shape of it starts to contour down over, and we have 2 of the longer lines that are on the skull of that target dummy, and it does not count as a headshot. So what does that mean for choosing your gun? I mean, so what? Some headshots don't count and some do count. Well, there's a way that you can get them to pretty much always count. So I know that a lot of people like to choose the optic based on how the sight's going or how they have their playstyle. And that's honestly best practiced. You're going to want to have a sight that you are comfortable using when playing. However, if you're just coming back from playing, or if you're trying to improve a little bit, I think it makes sense that what you want your sight to be is to be the one that is going to provide you with the best area for the most number of headshots. Now, Ubisoft has stated previously, Rainbow Six Siege stated, I should say, that with the Reflex reticle, it's always going to go to the tip of the arrow. The tip of the arrow is the center of the shot always. So if we come to our man up here, let's go ahead and let's even throw him back, all the way back, right? So that's a 40 meter shot. Okay, so no matter what, when you're doing this, right, you're gonna be able to tell, wow, most of those shots are on his head. You can even tell just by making a mental line there that that's more than half of the circle. But if you look here, it doesn't look like it does hit. But when we clear it, right, again, doesn't look like it's hitting. So let's try this on the dummy. Okay, so on the dummy, if we bring it as close to the tip of his head as possible, right, it still goes under. But if we bring it just slightly below the tip of his head, you're pretty much always hitting. Now, when we take a screenshot of that, bring it over to Photoshop, what you'll find is this is the tip of the triangle, these 2 pixels here. There's still a couple pixels that are unaccounted for. However, if you bring it as far back as humanly possible, you can tell that that's hitting. I mean, if you put your face as close to the screen as possible, the tip of the triangle is majorly always getting that headshot. If you look at this shot right here, if we bring that over to Photoshop, right, and we take a look at it, there's 2 pixels where it doesn't hit. And that's assuming that you could even move your mouse just those 2 small pixels. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna keep trying to nudge it back. But you see, when you get exactly on the line, right, it doesn't count. It's like this border here doesn't count. So what does this mean? What does all this information mean? I've been talking about whether or not different sites have different product to offer you, different results to offer you. And to show that, what we want to do is we want to be able to sit here and not be able to shoot above his head. If you look closely, you can even tell that that's on his head. Every single part of that is on his head. And the bullet is supposed to go at the tip of the triangle, which would be in this one of these 2 squares right here. And it's not. Now, you might be thinking, still, what does that mean for me, the Rainbow Six Siege player? What it should mean is that when you have a gun, like for example, a Valkyrie, as a defender, you really only get options of the 1.5, or you rarely get options of the 1.5. But you'll see lots of shots like this where if you take a look at it, I mean, that looks very clearly if this is the top of the head. Even if this is the top of the head, I mean, the majority of the optic is showing in there, but it's not counting. So by changing to be on a more direct reticle, like the Reflex A, Reflex B, Reflex C even, what you're going to notice is it's going to help you make sure that you're aiming in a way that you're more likely to hit your shots. Because you can't always control how much of the center of the reticle is covering the head. But when you use the reflex sights, as long as the tip of that triangle is on his head, I mean, there's still that 2 pixel gap between the top of his head and the tip of the reticle. And as you saw, that counts as a headshot. So what I'm saying is you should just be using the reflex more often than you think. People will say that optics don't matter and play whatever you're comfortable with, and a lot of historical hate happened on the red dot site, but it turns out there's some evidence for that. And the evidence is that when you come in here and you take this shot counts, whereas the previous shot with the holographic, in the same manner, with the same amount of the flushness of the top of the head of the training dummy, it didn't count. So at the end of the day, you can use whatever optics make you feel more comfortable with the game. If you want to improve at the game, have better hit reg, does seem like the reflex is the better sight to go with. And that's all I want to bring to you. So thank you guys for coming in. If you're still here this long and you like this type of content, feel free to drop a like and a subscribe. I have other content that I plan on putting out. You got plenty of stuff that's already out now that you can feel free to look around at. But I think this is one thing that Rainbow Six Siege players really need to know. Now, I might not be the best person to present it because I'm still new to this, but I appreciate everyone who's stopped by to take a look at it and realize that there is a problem with certain optics and whether or not the hit reg is counting and how many pixels of that reticle are on the head, even if it's a majority, and the headshots still don't count. So regardless of lag, ping, anything like that, as you can tell in the training arena, there's a 1 millisecond ping. There's no other sort of lag input. It's just raw data of how many pixels of this reticle are covering the hue of the head of the target dummy and when it counts and when it doesn't. And it appears that it counts more regularly and more consistently with the reflex sights than it does with the holo sights. Hope you guys consider changing. Have a good rest of your day.